Hello, it's Mio, and welcome to this little video where I'll be turning this jar into a mushroom house or a little fairy house type of deal. And for this project, I will be using the rest of the air dry clay that I have hanging around. So I have this whole pack and then this little bit extra to make this jar. And as it turned out, it was a lot more clay than I needed. So I did make about 21 tiny little cats and a duck with this clay as well that I do not show in this video but might make videos on in the future. So I started by rolling out this clay with this round thing that I had laying around, and this clay had actually gotten quite dry, so it did take me a while and it was pretty hard to do, but then I just wrapped it neatly around the jar, or not that neatly, and then I tried to smooth it around. And smoothing air dry clay, I don't know what it is, but I just cannot do it. And this air dry clay in particular was just not working with me. I don't know what it is. It might be a little bit too old or something. It was especially hard to cover the bottom, and here you can see me try to hit the clay and try to smooth it out. And I found that smooth little motions with this tiny stick worked the best, although it was very time consuming and it didn't look perfect in the end either. But I'm hoping that by using some sandpaper on it later, it will fix it. And then here I'm working on the hat by just putting a clump of aluminum foil on top of the lid and then just try to wrap it around and hoping for the best. I got the idea to make this little mushroom jar on TikTok many years ago, and I never saved the video, but I thought it was really cool and creative. And then I think it kind of took off because a lot of people were making these type of mushroom fairy house type of jars, and I never really got around to making it. But then I had this air dry clay hanging around that was drying up, so I had to use it, and then I suddenly remembered that video. So that's where the idea came from. It's not my idea at all, and there are a lot of people that have done this before. But I tried to not look up any references, which I probably should have done, so it would have turned out a little bit better. But I was too lazy. Oh, and here I pop off the lid by accident from the mushroom part, so I decided to kind of reinforce it a little bit better with some clay on top, even though I was afraid that it would make it harder to close the jar, which it did. But at least the lid is stuck in there and won't fall, and it's actually a functional jar. So I think that's a worthy sacrifice. Here I am not just reinforcing the lid, but I'm also trying to smooth out and make it a little bit thicker on the underside so that I can make these lines that I'm making right here. So I tried to add these lines quite evenly around the bottom of the mushroom hat, and also round them so that they look more natural and look like they actually maybe belong in nature. After making the lines, I decided to make the door, and I started by sketching out with this little stick where I want the door to be, and then I add the window by pretty much just making little dots around where I want them to be, and then picking up the clay and then using the stick to make it rounder and also make it a bit neater on the edges because it looks very messy right now, but it does look better after I clean it up. And then I want the door to have this very clear, very thick wooden texture. So to do that, I use the stick again and I sketched out where I wanted to be. Sometimes the clay wanted to kind of rip up, and I did not like that, so I did fix it right here. You can see that it's a little bit smoother, and how I did that was just put water on my finger and then I just rubbed it a little bit, and then it looked a lot better. And because the water reactivated the clay a little bit, I put the water over the whole door. You can see that it's a lot cleaner now and the lines are looking a lot smoother and sharper, and I'm just really happy with it overall. After making the door, I wanted this nice little line, or like a frame almost, around the door that many doors have. So I started by just making a hot dog shape, and then I put it around the door, and then I used the stick thing to kind of blend it a little bit into the sides, which is the only way that I find that the clay will stick to itself, or at least the easiest way to get it to stick to itself. And then I tried to round it, or not round it, but make it flatter on the upper side. And then I make tiny little rocks or wooden pieces. I hadn't really decided at this point before moving on to another window that I wanted on the side of this little jar, and I do the same technique as I did with the door, just, you know, making little dots, ripping it out, and then cleaning it. Then I did the same thing as I did with the door. I wanted a little frame around the window because that would look a lot more natural, and I also wanted some more texture and details in there because I knew that I didn't really want to make all that many details, and this was pretty much the last detail I wanted on there. Could I have made more things? Yes, I could. It probably would have looked nice with some more windows, or a little window on the mushroom itself, or like the top of it, I mean. But I didn't feel like it. So this is how it looks before I sanded it. It looks a little bit rough, but I do fix most of it by sanding. And here it is all sanded and ready to get painted. And you can see already that it's a lot smoother. It looks a lot better. But you can still see some imperfections and indents, especially on the top of the mushroom that is laying there. There's not all that much I could do about it though, because if I had sanded it even more, it would have just turned thinner and thinner until it looked terrible. So this is just how it's gonna be. Maybe it makes it look more natural, more like a mushroom. That's what I choose to believe, at least. And here I'm painting the hat, or the top of the mushroom. And I decided to go for a very like normal mushroom, like edible mushroom, instead of going for the more popular fly mushroom with all the white dots on it, the red poisonous one, which I do like. I love that kind of mushroom, but I didn't add the little dots on top of the hat thing, so I decided to just go with a normal mushroom. And this is also supposed to be, this is just my first little mushroom jar. This is my first attempt at it, so I'm gonna keep it simple this time, and maybe I'll make a more complicated one later. Here I'm adding some texture and a lighter part on the mushroom with this brush that is very, very old and actually ruined, which makes it nice to use for this actually, because it makes very good texture and it also gets into all the little crevices. And yeah, here's a little close-up. You can see that I don't have to be careful with it. I can just like kind of slam it on the mushroom and it will look good. And here I decided to go for a more yellowish tint. And here's the door, and then here is the bottom of the mushroom. It's going really fast here, but for the bottom of the mushroom I went for the same, or almost the same color as the mushroom itself, or like the where the door is and such, but I made it slightly darker just to differentiate the bottom half and the top half, and also so it would blend better in with the top side of the mushroom. Here I'm dry brushing a little bit so that the frame around the door and the window gets some nice texture. And I did not sand this part, which is very good actually, because it adds a lot more texture in there that I really, really like. So this actually turned out to be one of my favorite parts. But that is it for this project. Here is the finished mushroom jar. You can see that I can't close it properly, so you can see a little bit of that glass underneath. But otherwise, I still really like it and would like to make some more maybe in the future, maybe some smaller ones in different colors. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and I will see you again next week. Goodbye.